coming today. Appreciate you showing up. We'll start with Michael Kelly, about 15 minutes, and then we'll bring in interim head coach Daniel DePrado. So Mr. Kelly, get us started with an opening statement, and then we'll take questions.
Great, thank you, Brian.
Michael, would you hire John Gruden if you had the opportunity?
Okay, I make my statements, please.
We'll get to that. He's gonna make a statement first.
Make a statement.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming today. Obviously wanted to make myself available and certainly for you to talk to Coach DePrado here shortly. But obviously on Sunday, came to never an easy decision to make a leadership change, but ultimately did that as you saw. We want to pass along our gratitude and appreciation for Coach Scott for what he did while he was here. I think what people need to realize probably more than anything was some things that we didn't have in place before he was here but his great help helped us lay another foundation for things. When you look at transforming a brand new locker room, indoor performance facility we're moving into this week, really on the mindset of putting student athletes first and the care for them. I think we're all important transitions for us and things that we want to keep building on in the future. But obviously, the unfortunate part is the results not timing out in the right way in terms of some of the things we're building. And when you look toward the future, it's a very bright one, and one that I think a lot of things that Jeff helped pave the way for will be a great benefit to whoever comes in here and takes the baton from here. We're starting our search now. Part of, as I think you all know from me in the past, it would not be something I would have typically done with a couple weeks left in the season, just kind of contrary to my nature, but it's adjusting to the reality of changes in college sports now. Obviously, transfer portals didn't exist the last time we made a change. The recruiting season as it is important, and so to have a chance to really have an open mind, have the ability to build the right relationships, understand the right relationships with people who are going to be interested in this job are important, and that's what we'll do. This is still a highly attractive job. Since we've announced this, there's dozens and dozens of people who have expressed their interest. There'll be dozens and dozens more that will in the days ahead, I'm sure, and we'll take the time to kind of evaluate that list for consideration, whittle it down, and ultimately get to the right candidate that we feel is in place to move forward for USF. This is a great job. It will be a great job. I mean, for all the reasons I told you, we are making major investments in it that to a level we probably never have before. I mean, you see the reality of that locker room, you see the reality of the indoor, and then you see the commitment of a multi-million-dollar stadium on the horizon. It'll be a great situation as someone that has that kind of shared vision with me. Timeline for me, I think it's, no hard date absolutely in mind that we have to have it. Could come sooner than this, but my anticipation would be sometime prior to December 5th is obviously a key date in the modern landscape, because that's when the transfer portal opens up. That's when, and then the first signing date is December 21st. So in terms of who we've got already committed at this point, that'll be evaluating what happens, and obviously for folks that will recruit in the future, that gives us appropriate time to adjust, which making the decision at this point in time gives us that ability that we wouldn't have had otherwise. I don't anticipate ever commenting on specific people, of course, but just know I think the most important thing for us is to have, again, someone that loves the vision of what we're trying to build here, has that kind of appetite that I think in this modern day can relate extremely well to players, has the recruiting ability and proven recruiting ability to bring people here and be a part of this vision, and just have that kind of experience. But I think our strategic plan, as you all know, is our first goal is to have an elite student athlete experience, and having those that have or can generate that type of experience can attract and retain student athletes that want to take USF to the next level. So we're going to be looking for, and we're going to find the right partner to do exactly that. So that kind of explains the general profile, that explains the timeline, and with that, I'll take questions.
Michael, obviously there was great thought that went into this before you make the decision to let our coach go, but when you make that decision, in the back of your mind, you must have a short list of possible candidates that you would like to see maybe replace or, you know, at least inquire.
Yeah, I don't know a short list of exactly who, but yeah, always people that I, you know, with my background, try to certainly admire coaches all over the country. I've had good opportunity to meet many of them and just to kind of know what's out there. But I generally do have a full open mind. There's no direct short list of people that we're just going after. There's just people obviously you know that could be really good possibilities, and then you also know that you're always eager to hear who else has those types of interest as well. And that's what a couple extra days more than what we had the last time allows you to do. And I think y'all know me to be a pretty thoughtful person, but I'll work with the urgency that we need to, and there is urgency. But at the same token, again, trying to understand the breadth of opportunity, but then also kind of zeroing into you know, more direct paths. And again, the clearest focus being on who's going to be focused not only on relating, recruiting, and retaining, but ultimately focused on winning championships and winning games. Because again, I know our fans, our students, our student athletes have all you know, had some tough years in recent years, and respect that, and we appreciate them staying with us, appreciate and understanding the challenge that we've had. But I'm really looking forward that while it hurts when you're going through it, all I can do is assess this as objectively as I can since I got here, and I think we're continuing to put the steps in place that you can see what winning programs have. We're putting more into that, and now we're going to continue to bring it together, and it's going to pay off. But so I know it's taken longer than it should. I feel the fans' frustration. I understand it, but I urge them to continue to understand that the best truly is yet to come, and understand that you can see the university making the kind of investment, and many donors making the kind of investment that it's going to take to achieve that success. So winning matters, and but I'm also fair and understanding you got to give the tools to make it happen, and that's what I think this next coach is going to benefit from greatly.
Why don't you think it worked for Jeff?
I think, honestly, in many ways, it's a matter of tough timing in this day and age of modern college sports. A lot of things have changed. There are some things that are completely out of his control. We've talked about them before. Everyone in this room has written about it before at some point. You've got everything from COVID in your very first year. I know everyone went through COVID, but to be your first year that happened, we obviously had to adjust some things from the staff before that caused some adjustments that he had to get used to. And then when you kind of helped me, he really did a great job of helping identify what are doing more for our players and what do they need that we didn't provide them before. When you talk about increased cost of attendance, better nutrition, different places to live, locker room, all these things he put the players first, which is great. That's what helped us kind of build a better culture and helped us kind of get to this point. Now it's just unfortunate that many of the things he helped to open our eyes and help build and help become reality, we just weren't winning at the same timeline that this is coming, and unfortunately, it just came to the point where I didn't think he and I could, you know, we couldn't sustain the lack of winning at the same time to continue to keep the right perspective and optimism and hope alive, which we will do. So it's just really a matter of timing and circumstance, in my opinion, for Jeff. But again, very grateful for the things that he did do, because as I said, that's part of what we needed to do. And then when you look back at the history of USF football, you're going to look at this time frame of Jeff, of getting us focused on the student athlete, getting some tools in place that we're going to be able to benefit from for a long, long time.
Michael, do you have a kind of a candidate profile in mind? Is head coaching experience prerequisite, Florida ties?
Not a prerequisite. I think having a head coaching experience would be great. Being able to relate and recruit Florida is always important. But again, when I talk about the modern situation of college sports that's changed so much, having the ability to relate to the players, that having the ability to recruit and navigate the current, whether it's transfer portal, whether it's you know, as you know, knowing the importance of NIL in terms of how our supporters will get more behind that in the future. All those things are important. But to me, it's the tools are now in place. Now it's really a matter of how do we build relate to the players, recruit and retain them, so we can move forward.
But Michael, you mentioned that the portal and relating to the players and all that, and because the landscape has changed dramatically since you made the hire of Jeff in 2019, it may not be at the top of your list, but probably near the list to have a coach who has been through this cycle before that has never been seen with the NIL and the transfer portal. Is that important?
Yeah, like I said, open-minded. I don't think you necessarily eliminate any profile. That's why there's not a simple one profile in my vote. I keep coming back to having the fact that Jeff didn't have head coaching experience before doesn't scare me from not having another one. But obviously, I think those that have been in that chair before, that could be a helpful identity. But yeah, having someone that's really been in the throes of things in recent years that understands how this has changed. Recruiting in and of itself, no matter how long you've been doing it, is a skill that I expect this person to have, and some proven ability on that. But I would also say that that skill and that ability has also changed dramatically in recent years. And because you've got to not only recruit Florida well, and we certainly want an emphasis on the Tampa Bay region, you've also got to be smart and understand there's got to be still contacts that the state of Florida is recruited so hard by everyone that you still got to make sure you can identify, some good candidates, some good prospects in different states when necessary, and then you've got to be able to properly evaluate, those that do enter the portal and make it happen. But you also want to focus on, again, creating the environment and finding the right way that your top talent, and certainly retain the talent that we've been fortunate enough to have here.
Michael, this will be your second, hire for a football coach. First one was it was a 9-10 day span between the firing and hiring of the previous staffs. Just what did you learn about yourself and the hiring process and the wisdom that you might have acquired to help you in this one?
Well, two things I think I learned. I feel I learned a lot better about communicating with coaches and understanding, just being on the same page the whole way through, to have a more, an even more professional and understanding about how decisions get made. And that's why I think you saw such a painful transition. I was glad that Jeff had a chance to speak to the team and be able to have that kind of change in leadership, if you will. But for this, the big change I mentioned at the outset, Will, is that again, I think all of us in my chair, and certainly myself personally, would rather always like to see the season, go through its fullest if you can, and because you never know what might happen. But if you see things that aren't ultimately going the right way, and I would have been obviously much more reluctant to do it earlier in the year. But now when you get to a point where you're 3 weeks out and you kind of see the timing, you're right. We did a whole last search in about 6 or 7 days. That was really fast, but that was more common then. But now that you kind of know the set date, we have a little bit later, early signing date being December 21st this year. We had the transfer portal deadline or entry date that didn't even exist back on December 5th. So having a couple more weeks to be able to identify and find the right person is comforting.
Michael,
You don't feel rushed in that case.
Would you rule Gruden out?
What's that?
Would you rule?
I'm not going to speak about any candidates. I've talked pretty clearly about what my,
But given his
right
baggage, Michael, given his baggage, isn't that almost a disqualifier?
Well, I've spoken to the profile of what I'm looking for, and I think that's where I'll stand for right now, Pat.
Do you think you have to get this right this time to keep this school moving forward? I mean, can you afford to have another disaster?
Well, I take exception to the disaster outside of obviously the record. Obviously, is something none of us are proud of. I think we know there were a lot of obstacles in place that kind of made part of that happen, but I also believe is we put a lot of things in place with Jeff that has made the future success that I envision, that I believe in, possible. So yes, is it something that we have to get right and continue to do better? No question. This is an extremely important hire for the University of South Florida, as was Jeff, but let's not lose sight of this. We will look back on Jeff's got an area of at least some things that we put in place that the next coach is going to be really pleased about.
Michael, you mentioned the December 5th transfer portal window opening a couple times, but since Jeff was fired, his players have a 30-day window that they can enter the portal right now. What if anything, can you all do to keep the guys on the roster in the fold?
Yeah, well, we work, we're trying to exhibit obviously great care, being very transparent about them, about what the process is going to be in terms of timeline. To me, it makes great sense that no matter what the circumstance that you are, that it makes sense to play well, play together, do the best you can for yourself, for your school, for your family over the next 3 weeks. And everyone should make the best decision they can with, no one wants to make a decision without all the best information at hand, and I think many of them would be well advised to see who the next coach is, see how that relates to you, and then you can evaluate what's best for other opportunities. But the reality is, that's why I think that date's so important. I think everyone, you know, our coaches that are here, our players that are here, this is an opportunity to show what you can do. And obviously, you always want to do your best to support yourself, your family, and your university.
Thank you.
You still have 3 games left to go here on this 2022 slate. You know, is there a chance that if this staff performs well in the final 3 games that they get looked at for some sort of retention with this next staff?
Yeah, I'm very open-minded to what will happen. I mean, I've made the changes I've made in terms of the staff, which I'll get into, and obviously hear from Coach DePrado here soon. Yeah, I expect them to. They're under contract. I expect them to perform the best of their ability, not only for what they're obligated to do, but as we talked about in the staff meeting when we were there on Sunday, is like we're in this. They're in this for the kids. How do we best make their experience as best we can during this tough season? And this is an opportunity for some that are in different roles to display their opportunity and take advantage of the opportunity. So again, I don't discount anything right now. I haven't even started the search. I'm getting things organized, but I just answered Matt's question quite directly in terms of what do I think is the right thing that we need here, that we need to emphasize, that I think is going to carry us forward to the success in the next couple of years. That's what I think that it is.
Michael, when earlier this season, Jeff spoke a lot about the need to have continuity and go through the rough times. After the game on Saturday at Temple, he was much more philosophical. I think he kind of knew what was happening, and so when you spoke to him, was it pretty evident on both sides, kind of the direction that needed to happen?
Yeah, but I think because of the good cadence of communication that Coach Scott and I always had, it was still always a very hard conversation, but one that wasn't a surprise, and that's where I feel that I improved as an athletic director from maybe where I was a couple of years ago in terms of having that type of cadence of communication and rhythm. So we were on the same page. The expectations were pretty clear, and unfortunately, I really thought there would be a different story to tell this week in terms of what happened, and kind of show I believe in continuity too. I thought I'd see the kind of momentum moving forward, even that's different peaks during the year, that we would see enough to warrant going into next year and continue on. But unfortunately, some things recently happened. It just didn't keep going in that direction.
Michael, when the release went out on Sunday,
Yes.
What's been the initial reaction of just the interest level that has come in? Have you been flooded with a lot of candidates?
Absolutely flooded. This is a great job. This is the University of South Florida in Tampa Bay. We're America's fastest rising university and America's fastest growing region. We know we haven't had some success in recent times, but when you go back and look at things that have been achieved at different parts of our 26-year history, when you look at the things that we're approving investment in, when you see the kind of support we're getting from the Board of Trustees, from President Law, I think if you take the time to look at that and realize what's kind of now here that some of our previous coaches maybe didn't have or are now still acquiring, I think you see a great commitment and realize that, hey, people are serious about this at USF. Tools are being put in place to have a successful program. So yeah, it's no surprise to me that it's almost a sacrifice to come in here because the phones are ringing off the hook. But it'll be, again, you don't want to operate too quickly. You want to, again, see what's out there, identify it, get to know them, have appropriate and deep looks into backgrounds, get deep looks into what's the right and best fit of what we can acquire right now. And that's what we're going to do over the next 2.5 weeks.
You kind of answered what I was going to ask, but just how, if at all, does this search and everything that will happen afterwards affect the stadium push and I guess kind of the magnitude to get this right with everything else going on?
Well, it affects the great thing is we continue to get great interest in the stadium. People know that that's the next step in our evolution, not only as an athletic department, as a football program, but as a university, quite frankly. So. While success on the field is going to help stimulate that even more, I think the commitment that we're seeing from our board and from our president just kind of is again emphasizing what I was saying earlier, that the vision is there, the commitment is there, and it's not to say the commitment wasn't there by some before, but it just wasn't the right time and the right priority for the university to move forward with it. And now that it really seems that it is, and that's what's going to. And people, while we don't always like to hear the word patience, the reality is we were only 25 years old. The university did make key decisions strategically that have made us America's fastest rising university, and now I think we see now that that's happened. There's no reason that they both, it's not mutually exclusive that you can be great in athletics and great, but sometimes you do have to take time and and match up the priorities and have the priorities straight on the academic side. But to have this type of support and focus on the new stadium and on the facilities we built, not only for football, but when you see the facility, when you can see the master facility plan for all of our sports, and you can see that aggressive vision for the future, that's what's exciting.
Michael, sometimes when coaches are changed at all levels, it always seems like you get the opposite guy, you go from the disciplinarian to the player, you know, a different personality. But when you look at Jeff, the things you described, it seems like he has so many positive qualities that he brought, didn't get it done on the field, but everything else adds to a great picture. So are you looking for that, trying to find those qualities in a person too, that some of the same ones that Jeff had?
Yeah, many of the things I alluded to are things that Jeff did very well. I mean, we've got to find some other ingredients as well that are going to match up with our current personnel and personnel we want to recruit in the future that'll take us forward. So it's there's no, I don't anticipate any, as I said, I'm not looking for any direct difference from where we were or anything else. It's just a matter of there obviously has to there was a change made, and now we're going to find the very best person we can find right now.
Last time you had this coaching search, you said Michael Kelly and Company was the search firm. Is that the case again this go round?
Not sure yet. I don't necessarily envision a search firm controlling it by any means, but there always is. Sometimes there's consultants to help with certain aspects of things, whether it's background checks or other things. But we're still working on that. I don't envision. I'll still ultimately make the decision. Obviously, I always have the approval from our board chair and our president, but to be determined. But I'll be navigating in a similar way. But there's always good information and good things that you can get from other consultants.
Michael, is it as simple as saying the talent level is just not conducive to winning? Was the wrong group of guys brought in, just not good enough talent to compete, or was it coaching?
I don't think there's ever any. I know people always look for one silver bullet or one person to blame, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. Some things weren't working. I obviously made some other changes on the personnel side as well. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And as I said before, a lot of it was. I look at it from what my responsibility is obviously to give all of our programs the tools to succeed. And in this case, we're talking about football. So it was my job to improve that. We are improving that. I think that the benefit of that labor will come in the future. But yeah, everyone has to look in the mirror for our recent record. That starts with me. That starts with coaching, and that starts with players. And then it talks about what else can we add to help the players continue to get better. So to me, it still all starts in modern day college sports with student athlete experience. How do we make this place the place that people want to come to, stay, and I think we're making steps in that direction, and we just have to continue to do that in a very positive way.
One more from Michael, and then we'll Coach Prado up there. Tracy?
If I may say, I've been watching afar for 34 years. You've done a hell of a job. You've given us all the tools that we need to get right up to the top. So it's just one or two pieces of puzzle. I'm sure you're gonna figure that out. So thank you.
Oh, well, very kind of you to say. We got a lot of work to do, but yeah, to me, I came here on a mission. You all know I felt called to be here because of my past, and I'm not going to give up till we get it right. And we're going to keep finding ways to make this a successful program, and I'm confident we will. I know Coach DePrado is going to be coming up here. Obviously, I have ultimate respect and confidence in Coach DePrado. He's got great energy. He's part of my decision is because of his leadership skills, his energy, but he also has been, because of the special teams involvement that he has and some on the defense in the past, talked to the greatest number of student athletes on a daily basis besides Coach Scott. And so there's familiarity there. And I also didn't want to get the offense, in my opinion, for the most part, is performing quite well, and to allow Coach Trickett and his staff to kind of stay pretty much intact and focused on what they're doing. And obviously on the defensive side, having Coach Sims have a chance to lead us the last couple of weeks was another really good effort I made. So with that, have ultimate faith in Coach DePrado, and I know he's eager to talk to you about his first practice. So we'll turn it over to Coach DePrado.